Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Brigadier General Cole, Deputy Commanding General, United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence, and the host for today's ceremony, welcome to the retirement ceremony in honor of Command Sergeant Major George T. Ackerman. Joining us today from the Aviation Center of Excellence Command Team are Brigadier General and Mrs. Kenneth C. Cole, Deputy Commanding General, Chief Warrant Officer 5 and Mrs. Michael A. Corsero, Chief Warrant Officer of the Aviation Branch, Command Sergeant Major and Mrs. Kirk R. Coley, Command Sergeant Major of the Aviation Branch. We would like to welcome our distinguished guests, officers, warrant officers, non-commissioned officers, soldiers, civilians, family and friends of the Fort Novosel and Wiregrass community. Command Sergeant Major Ackerman will now present flowers to his wife, Wendy, for her many years of devotion and resiliency. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the invocation given by Lieutenant Colonel Chaplain Scott G. Kennis and remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Sergeant First Class Deanna Lucchese.
Let us pray. Lord, it is fitting that we pause and ask your favor upon the AVCO community and this retirement ceremony commemorating the dedication of a true patriot and treasure of our country, Command Sergeant Major George Ackerman. Lord, for over 3 decades, his hands were trained for battle and his life given for the cause of freedom, the very freedom that we enjoy here today. Lord, we thank you for the example of he and his wife that reminds us that greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Lord, may we learn from their devotion, loyalty, and sacrifice for our country. God, I pray that in retirement, he and Wendy will be embraced by a kind providence, and that the past experiences, successes, and trials be an insightful guide for embracing the next chapter in their lives as a family. Lord, be with our instructor pilots and students at this very hour. Grant them a safe landing. To God alone be the glory. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Ken Cole.
Man, that was awesome. Thank you, Sergeant Lucchese. That was fantastic. So I count you among the distinguished guests. So distinguished guests, soldiers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fort Novosel, the home of Army Aviation. And thank you for joining us today to recognize the remarkable career of Sergeant Major George T. Ackerman. This museum is an amazing venue, and I'm glad you've gotten to spend some time here while you've been here. But also, I know you're going to get a little special tour of a place we don't normally open to the public later today, so enjoy that because it's a special place for Army Aviation. So I also want to recognize one group of special guests here that some you see, some you don't. There's a group of Sergeants Major and Command Sergeants Major here, both in and out of uniform. And if I could ask those NCOs to stand up, and former NCOs, I'd really appreciate it. Sergeants Major, bring it up. It's a big group. All right. That's the power of the American NCO Corps right there. I appreciate all of you Sergeant Majors and Sergeants Major for being here. So George's 31-year career is a tribute to a soldier who's dedicated his life to the service of our nation and the Army. Before I pay tribute to Sergeant Major Ackerman's illustrious career, let me again recognize the support team, family and friends. Many of us are with us today. So as you saw with the flowers, his wife, and we'll talk more about Wendy in a bit, but Wendy, thank you. So we've got some other veterans here that I need to make sure we mention. Army veteran Tommy Ackerman, George's dad. So served in Germany, where, side note, George was conceived, but we'll leave that part out. But Tommy was responsible for the safety and security of nuclear weapons, including safe transport of nuclear weapons when he was in Germany. So thanks for joining us, sir. Michael Ackerman, George's brother, and his wife Amanda, and we have 4 of their 5 children here. We won't hold it against you, Michael, but Navy service member, served on 3 aircraft carriers, so thanks for joining us, Michael. Okay, another Army veteran, Mike Rue, George's father-in-law, Vietnam veteran who also served here at Fort Rucker long ago. So thanks for joining us, Mike. Okay, we also have a bunch of uncles and aunts, Alan and Cindy Wilson, who joined us from north of Houston, and Chris and Margaret Kitchens from Ackworth, Georgia. Chris, also Army veteran, went to North Georgia, and they're from Tennessee. Thank you for joining us. And then some great and close family friends, Marty and Angie Schunkweiler, in from Atlanta, so thanks as well for joining us, guys. So George will be the first to admit he could not have achieved anything in a 31-year military career without the support group, and thank you all for being there for George and Wendy through these many decades, and for being here today to recognize that. So I'd like to do one more great big round of applause for you. Thank you. Okay, so now we dial the Wayback Machine to 1994. That was a crazy year. Big movies that year were Forrest Gump and The Lion King. The Major League Baseball strike, those of you that remember that, resulted in the cancellation of the World Series for the first time in 90 years. And the Beastie Boys coined the term mullet to refer to a hairstyle in their song Mullet Head. Not sure, but I suspect the Beastie Boys song did not influence George's hairstyle. Although George does claim that back in '94 he had an awesome mullet. Yeah, brother says no. Okay. But he did have curly hair, which may or may not be true as well, so. Anyway, we'll move on. George's distinguished career spans 31 years of service, 3 overseas deployments, 14 PCSs, and he was stationed at bases in 7 different states. From the moment he enlisted in the Army to today, he's exemplified the highest standards of leadership, commitment to soldiers, and professionalism. Today, George will retire from the Aviation Center of Excellence as our Sergeant Major for training. He served as the Sergeant Major of organization that we call the OPFD, Organization and Personnel Force Development. In these capacities, George distinguished himself. In both, he spearheaded efforts to increase our aviation maintainer and aircrew member flight pay. He was literally working for our aviation enlisted maintainers and aircrew members from the beginning. He helped update the aviation badge criteria. He resourced and fielded the automated aviation maintenance training plans, updated enlisted career maps, innovated utilization for our unmanned crew members, and that is pretty awesome stuff that they're doing out at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, where we're literally building unmanned aerial systems from a pile of parts, thanks to George and his leadership. And he's improved enlisted training through the employment of augmented and virtual reality. Before he was assigned to Novacell, his leadership was impactful across numerous other assignments and locations and deployments. To name a few, he was the Command Sergeant Major of our 96th Aviation Support Battalion. We have other alumni from that great unit in here, which is at the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade up at Fort Campbell, about 8 hours drive north. He was the Command Sergeant Major in Honduras. He was the Brigade Command Sergeant Major in the 1st Armored Division CAB, which is the Combat Aviation Brigade at Fort Bliss. And during that job, he deployed to Afghanistan. A very close friend of ours, sends his regrets today, but the story I'm about to tell you came from him. His commander, Colonel retired Jay Hopkins. So there's no better example of his relentless pursuit of excellence than during his time in Afghanistan. He's a soldier's soldier. While in Afghanistan, he advocated doing as he said and as he did. As the Command Sergeant Major, he would crew aircraft in the back, just like his soldiers did, and fly as a door gunner on missions to inspire, train, and evaluate his soldiers. So in Afghanistan, 2019, the Aviation Brigade received the mission to exfiltrate a U.S. Army Special Forces team at night. Sergeant Major Ackerman decided to fly on this mission, just a relatively straightforward mission as a door gunner in the CH-47, the Chinook aircraft. And we do have one of those back there in the corner, so you guys make sure you see it. As the helicopter landed for the team's extraction, it came under intense enemy fire. George engaged with his door gun, successfully suppressed the enemy's attack, enabling the team's extraction. And this type of out-front, lead-by-example action is what makes Sergeant Major Ackerman's career noteworthy, earning him the title Soldier's Soldier. Soldiers and civilians who've worked with him describe George as a stoic, a man of few words. The exception is when the Georgia Bulldog football team is playing. In fact, he can be very animated and talkative, expletives not always deleted, when they're when they're losing or even winning, like the 2024 SEC championship game. Or so I've heard. But George is much more than that. He's a quiet professional. And if I had to put his career into one, two-word sentence, it would be quiet professional. This is one of the highest compliments a soldier can pay another soldier. But he's dedicated, humble, and he cares deeply for his soldiers. His awards and decorations include, and this is a litany of basically heroism that nobody will ever talk about, but the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars, 6 Meritorious Service Medals, the Air Medal, 3 Army Commendation Medals, the Combat Action Badge, the Master Aviation Badge, and the Parachutist Badge. And they represent a legacy of service in peacetime and combat, nothing less than extraordinary. However, we all know George couldn't have done this alone. So Wendy, his wife of 29 years plus, thank you for all you've done to support George, up to and including the 4 triathlons you guys did together, numerous other adventure races, plus camping trips all over the world. You've been all in. 14 PCSs are difficult, and your contributions to George during his assignments were immeasurable. Your leadership, mentoring, and support of our soldiers' families, especially during those deployments and all of your assignments, have been appreciated by George, your soldiers, and their families. and the Army. Your support was essential and well done. Thank you, Wendy. Round of applause. Okay, and as I said up in a very small ceremony a little bit earlier, this is not an ending, this is not a funeral, this is a beginning. So George, I hope you and Wendy enjoy the next chapter in your lives. George enjoys RVing and traveling, so full steam ahead. Maybe you'll get to do some tailgating at a Georgia Bulldog football game. And someone once said, the trouble with retirement is you never get a day off. But knowing you, I know you will miss the day-to-day challenges that give every day its meaning here. George does not have a second career yet, but I suspect that will change shortly after he's gotten some rest and recuperation, maybe some facial hair. He and Wendy plan to remain here in the Wiregrass, where he will seek employment. And next athletic adventures include pickleball, so George, watch out, Wendy's coming. All right. Sergeant Major Ackerman, we're going to pin the Army Soldier of Life pin on you shortly. We know you'll continue to serve and lead in your community. You'll be an example for the next generation of soldiers. We'll miss you and Wendy, but remember, you'll always be part of Army Aviation, part of the home team here, and the Army family. You'll always be above the best. On behalf of the Ackermans, I would like to thank you all for your attendance today and for joining us in recognizing the career of Sergeant Major George T. Ackerman. Thanks as well to all of our volunteers who helped set up this ceremony and such a professional event. Above the best, fly Army.
Brigadier General Cole will now recognize Command Sergeant Major Ackerman for his more than 30 years of outstanding service with the presentation of the Legion of Merit, an American flag, Certificate of Appreciation, and Certificate of Retirement. Please remain seated during the presentation of all awards. The Legion of Merit is awarded to Command Sergeant Major George T. Ackerman for exceptionally meritorious service for more than 30 years, culminating as the Aviation Center of Excellence Sergeant Major for Training. Command Sergeant Major Ackerman served with distinction, honor, and character across numerous units and worldwide assignments, both in peace and in war, throughout his expansive military career. His superior achievements, leadership, and technical knowledge contributed to the overwhelming success of the Army's mission by consistently displaying the highest standards of expertise under the most difficult of circumstances. His innumerable contributions and superior performance are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect distinct credit upon himself, the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence, the Combined Arms Center, and the United States Army. Signed, Milford H. Beagle, Jr., Lieutenant General, United States Army, Commanding. Brigadier General Cole will now present Command Sergeant Major Ackerman an American flag for his 30 years of dedicated service to the United States Army and our nation. Since the dawn of our nation, soldiers have proudly flown the flag in every major conflict around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we, as Americans, enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country and way of life. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. At this time, Brigadier General Cole is presenting Command Sergeant Major Ackerman with the Certificate of Appreciation from the Commander-in-Chief. The certificate reads, At this time, Brigadier General Cole is presenting Command Sergeant Major Ackerman with a certificate of appreciation from the Commander-in-Chief. The certificate reads, "I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of our grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. I trust that in the coming years you will maintain an active interest in the armed forces and the purpose for which you served. Those who follow in your footsteps will draw inspiration from your commitment, dedication, and sacrifices made to ensure the protection of our American freedoms. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future." Signed, the Commander-in-Chief. Brigadier General Cole will now present Command Sergeant Major Ackerman with a certificate of retirement. The certificate reads, "The certificate of retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Command Sergeant Major George T. Ackerman, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 31st day of May, 2025. Signed, Randy A. George, General, Army Chief of Staff." The Public Service Commendation Medal is presented to Mrs. Wendy E. Ackerman for extraordinary service to the United States Army from June 1995 to May 2025. Mrs. Ackerman embodies the same Army values that is expected of our soldiers and has demonstrated the highest standards of selfless service and genuine care for soldiers and their families. Her integrity and dedication to the Army and the community are felt by all who have had the privilege to work with her. We will remain forever grateful for her steadfast service and outstanding dedication to the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence and the United States Army. Signed, Kenneth C. Cole, Brigadier General, U.S. Army, Commanding. Brigadier General Cole will now present Mrs. Wendy E. Ackerman with the Army Certificate of Appreciation. To all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Wendy E. Ackerman, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation of your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Signed, Randy A. George, General, Army Chief of Staff. Brigadier General Cole will now present Mrs. Wendy Ackerman with the Aviation Center of Excellence Certificate of Appreciation. For her exceptional support to the soldiers and families of the United States Army aviation community, we express our unending appreciation. Your contributions are recognized. We are truly grateful. You are truly above the best. Signed, Major General Gill, Chief Warrant Officer 5 Corsaro, and Command Sergeant Major Coley. Wendy Ackerman will now be presented with the Order of Anne Morrow Lindbergh. The Order of Anne Morrow Lindbergh recognizes spouses and family members who have contributed significantly to the community of Army aviation. These individuals who voluntarily serve the community are recognized as exemplary and characterize the highest standards of integrity and moral character, displaying an outstanding degree of dedication to the aviation community. For her significant meritorious contributions to the Army aviation community spanning over 3 decades, Mrs. Wendy E. Ackerman is a shining example of the selfless dedication that few Army spouses possess. She is a model for her peers and is a true asset to our unit and community. Her volunteer efforts truly demonstrate a selfless spirit, and her enthusiasm and dedication have won the respect of all those around her. Her limitless dedication and personal sacrifice have significantly contributed to our way of life. She is a true patriot whose sacrifice and commitment to our unique way of life is representative of thousands of aviation spouses who deserve special recognition. She has brought great credit upon herself, the United States Army, the Aviation Center of Excellence, and the aviation community. Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major retired George T. Ackerman.
Okay, I will try to be as elegant as General Cole was, but and keep it short. 30 years in 3 minutes. We'll see if we can do that. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I know we're all extremely busy. It was great to have this much family that made the trip down from Georgia and Tennessee and Houston to come down here. Most of you guys have never been to a military ceremony. Some of you haven't. And then as well as to make the trip and then kind of see a ceremony that I've been in. It just hasn't happened. And so unfortunately, but it's great to have you guys. I really appreciate you guys making the trip down. It means the world to me and Wendy. So thank you so much. General Cole, thank you so much for those kind words. Really appreciate it for hosting this ceremony and getting into that uniform. As some of you guys don't know on this family side, this isn't the uniform we're going to wear forever. This is the uniform we've worn for the last several decades, and they'll transition to the one that Master Sergeant Madeley is in. So that's why you kind of see a mix of different uniforms. But appreciate the time that we've had to work together over the last year, or shorter than a year. But it's been phenomenal. I couldn't think of a better person that I would rather have host my ceremony and have served with and worked with. You're an inspiration to us all. Thank you so much, sir. Well, thank you all for being here today. As I said, folks, the day has finally come. After nearly 31 years, countless cups of coffee, and more meetings than I care to count, I'm hanging up my military uniform for the last time. As I stand here today reflecting on a career that has spanned 3 decades, I am filled with a mix of emotions: sadness, gratitude, and excitement. Sadness because I'm putting on the daily uniform, working with all of you, and the sense of purpose that comes from serving. And gratitude because I have been blessed to have had the opportunity to serve alongside such an extraordinary group of individuals and leaders. And excitement because many of us are eager to start the next chapter in our lifelong journey. I stand here reflecting on the time that has brought me to this moment, from working on the aircraft that now hang as museum pieces. As many of you know, I actually came in the Army as a Cobra guy and crewed the AH-1F, as here to my left, your right. And that was the first aircraft I worked on for about 5 or 6 years before I transitioned to a Kiowa and became a Kiowa guy until that retired and now hangs here in this museum. So it's only fitting that I conduct my ceremony here in this museum as well. So. And then later in life, it was only through probably luck and sheer drive and determination that I became a crew chief on a Black Hawk and a Chinook and passed my A parts and got qualified. Even though I never went to school for those aircraft, I enjoyed flying on them and my time spent doing those missions, as General Cole alluded to there in Afghanistan. And I really want to also thank, and I will to a little bit later, that I wish Jay Hopkins could be here, my commander at the time, but Steve Donahue, our former CCWO. Love this man. He's a great inspiration. Him and Carrie have done have always been great to me and Wendy and nurtured us along the way and took care of us. And we really appreciate you guys showing up today as well. So phenomenal. Thank you so much. To my ever supportive and wonderful wife, and I don't want to forget this, so I'm going to put this in here now, right? Because without you, the last 30 years would have been so hard. And I really appreciate everything that you did. You're a constant leader to a lot of different people, not just to me, not just to mentoring me and all that stuff, but you've been a FIRSA, you've been an FRG leader multiple times, you have You have worked with command teams on the multiple deployments and times that I've been away, the countless other missions that I've been on. So I really appreciate everything that you've done. To take care of moves, oftentimes you took care of moves and I wasn't even there. But the only reason that we have such a successful life together is because of you. It's not because I made it any easier, for sure. Like I said, you're my rock. You're my sanity check and my confidant. I bounce things off of you all the time. I didn't let you see this speech. It's probably going to hurt me later, but you do a really good job of reading that stuff sometimes. But I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to what we're going to do now. So thank you for all the support that you've given me over the years, and to the families and soldiers of everyone that we've worked with and had under our charge. To my family, Dad, Michael, Amanda, Taylor, Caitlin, Josh, Luke. I have to read that because I don't remember which ones are all here today. And Chris and Margaret, Alan and Cindy. Guys, thanks so much for your unwavering support and love. You have been a safe haven and an inspiration to Wendy and I, and we are so grateful for every opportunity we've had as we've zigzagged across this continent, stopping in to briefly say hello, to crash a ski trip, a wedding, whatever we could possibly take part in at that moment. We kind of forced ourselves in at times, but we really, really appreciate you opening up your homes to us. It's great to see all of you guys here. To the command team and the command spouses, phenomenal leaders of this branch. There is so much that we did not realize that went on at the Center of Excellence in the home of Army Aviation, and how our effects go throughout the entire branch to all the cabs across all 3 compos, and to DC and the messaging and how we fight for our soldiers on a daily basis. You guys constantly lead that effort. You're motivated when you come into almost every meeting, and you open up your homes and do countless socials to kind of drive that point home to everybody else. I have enjoyed so much of the energy and friendship that you kind of emit, if you will, and it's been remarkable. And I couldn't have picked a better organization to be a part of and to spend my last years in the Army. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for me and Wendy. Appreciate it. Jimmy and Kurt, thanks for giving me this opportunity. I really didn't know what to expect coming into this job, and I wasn't sure it was something I wanted to do. I was all set to retire about 2 years ago, as you guys know, and to stay in an extra year plus was not sure that it was something I wanted to undertake, but it turns out it was probably the best decision I ever could have took. And I thank you for it. Hopefully you don't regret it. I don't think you do, but I really appreciate that. To my friend Mike Casero, that drive back from Huntsville that night in the dark in a protocol van that didn't have really good headlights or windshield wipers, it was a great 4 to 6 hours of stress. Of course, you didn't know because you were on the phone the entire time calling everybody and your brother at 10, 11 o'clock at night, just saying, did I wake you up? Oh, I'm sorry, but let me ask you this question. So that was my introduction to Mike Casero, because before then we had worked, but I didn't really know you at that time. So that will forever stick with me. That was fun. To the protocol team, PAO, everybody else that had a hand in the ceremony, I appreciate you guys so much. You took a little bit of the stress off of me and Wendy, and made this a great event, and we truly appreciate it. And again, to the cohort of Sergeant Majors that helped with this ceremony, and to Mattingly and Lucchese and everybody else, thank you so much. To Andrea, Melissa, Emily, Captain Klein, Sergeant Valley, the revolving door of lieutenants, you have truly made coming to work fun. I mean, literally, it was fun because of you guys. And of course, what I will truly miss is all the sweets that we had almost weekly, because it was always somebody's birthday, or Melissa, you're the most phenomenal cake baker. Nothing bad, Wendy. But our running joke is that that's my work spouse, and she makes all the fun stuff at work, and so we greatly appreciate all that stuff. And Andrew, everything that you've done has been top notch. I owe you big time. Yeah. So To Jay Hopkins and Steve Donahue, I already said this, but man, I cannot say enough about you guys. I mean, our time in 1AD cab was phenomenal. And the fact that I got to follow you here, because at first I didn't know that was going to happen, it just turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Our memories from Afghanistan, as General Cole told the story there, part of the story, not really the whole story, but there's a lot more to that, but I truly love that, and it made us tighter because of it, and we had a great group. And even Mike Rismondo is here somewhere. He was actually on that mission as well. He was in a Black Hawk. Of course, they didn't touch the Black Hawks. The Black Hawks went in, landed, took back off. Nothing happened with them. LZ's good, it's green, it's great. You're going to have a great time. Land in Chinooks, all hell breaks loose. And so I guess they heard us coming, but I appreciate that. To those that will carry the torch forward, I don't think that Clem is here, but and Chris Cooper that's coming in for 10th Cap, man, you guys are going to have a great time. You're going to love it. You're going to get educated. You get to just adapt to that TRADOC pace, and hopefully that doesn't wear you out too bad. But looking forward to seeing where you guys take it in the future and the dividends that we'll expect to see. As I step into this new adventure called retirement, I promise to use my newfound free time wisely. By that, I mean it finally have time to perfect my golf swing, travel, sip good bourbon, and maybe learn how to cook something other than bowling pizza or bowling water, oatmeal, and pizza. I did make good pancakes today, though, you have to admit. But for everybody here, hey, thanks for coming. I truly appreciate it. It's been awesome. Looking forward to contributing, to staying here in the Wiregrass area, and to continue to serve in some capacity. Fly Army, above the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and join us in the singing of Above the Best and the Army Song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Command Sergeant Major Retired George T. Ackerman and his wife Wendy will remain in the front for final farewells. Please join Command Sergeant Major Ackerman and his family behind the Huey for cake and refreshments. Thank you for attending. Fly Army, above the best.